Welcome to our Vallessa Cultural Services presentation today, the best culinary experiences in Spain and Portugal. And we're joined today by Marcy Foreman, General Manager and co-owner of Vallessa Cultural Services. Vallessa has been operating in Spain and Portugal and beyond since 1968, and both Marcy and co-owner Barbara Fulford are Americans, which makes Vallessa uniquely qualified to cater to the needs of North Americans traveling to the region. Marcy is originally from Connecticut and is a graduate of the Cornell School of Hotel Administration. She started her career in the hotel business and also worked in other segments of the travel industry as a meeting planner, in travel agency sales, tour operation, and as general manager at American Airlines in Spain and Portugal. So for the past 30 plus years, she's lived in Spain, arranging custom programs and other luxury services for American individuals and groups through her company, Vallessa Cultural Services. Marcy, welcome.
Thanks, Lee, and hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me, especially during this unusual homebound time. As Lee said, I'm Marcy Foreman. I'm the General Manager of Vallessa Cultural Services based in Madrid. Vallessa has been dedicated to working for VIP American travelers longer than anybody else in our segment. And of course, we're the only American-owned and managed DMC in this market as well, on the ground here in Spain and Portugal. We began working for American institutions and museums like Smithsonian and Stanford and Harvard and the International Council of the MoMA in the 1980s, when we considered ourselves a cultural agency more than a travel agency for these organizations. Opening private homes and other venues, hiring top local experts and lecturers, and of course showcasing always the best in regional cuisines everywhere, even back then. So here's a map of our current services region. This includes Morocco, all the Spanish and Portuguese islands, including Balearic, Canaries, Azores, and Madeira, plus the south of France across the Spanish border. And this is all to allow our advisor clients the ability to plan it all with just one Vallessa agent, even if they have to cross a border. We find that American travelers are most ready to visit an entire region, irregardless of the borders. And so this just shouldn't intimidate anyone from planning the perfect experience for their client. Plus, the regional and national differences in our area tend to lend more contrast to the trip, and so that makes it even more exciting for your client. Morocco came into being with Vallessa more than 10 years ago, thanks to clients wanting that exotic extension to Marrakesh. And southern France became part of our territory when we discovered that the French operators were actually getting as far as Bordeaux for the most part, and not really serving our rich border farther south. And so our FAM schedule and webinars for at least 2 years will be to be reaching advisors and teaching them how to cross borders and combine destinations and be comfortable with that. Spain-Portugal 101, Spain-Portugal 201, the whole Basque Country, including the French side, and our newest merged region called the Catalonia Mediterranee, which includes Pyrenees, Carcassonne, and Toulouse. These are all previous FAMs that we have operated, as well as webinars for you to see in the future, and we will continue. And our next FAM coming up is in March 2021, and it will be a Spain Culinary FAM. Very excited for that one. So who are we in Vallessa? Here you have a picture of myself and Barbara. Barbara founded Vallessa in 1968, and in fact, is the second female travel agent in Madrid. And Barbara and I both live in Madrid. She's from Chicago, while I'm from the New York area. And we both previously worked for airlines and other multinational companies. And so Vallessa was always meant to do the opposite of these gargantuan operations. Vallessa was always to be small, tailored, high quality, and great access as our main focus from the start. Here are a few photos of the office team coming up. You can see on the left during our Secret Santa, and on the right during a really fun flamenco education and team building exercise. Ours is a great team that's all bicultural and bilingual, and therefore allowing a good cultural understanding of both sides of the ocean, while we do our best to work like Americans with timely and clear communications, creative and authentic tailored programs, and above all, flexibility and understanding our clients to plan for each one as they need. I should mention that the office in Madrid is just one part of our organization. Vallesa also boasts 2 more layers of staff all over the Iberian Peninsula. There are national experts by theme and also local coordinators in every major city, islands, Morocco, and France, so that this structure and these specialists have allowed us to capture the institutional and educational market while offering the benefits from that to the FIT planners in the form of great guides and knowledge, connections, and private access. As such, our business mix is actually 50-50 between the cultural groups and the FIT packages. So here you have a photo coming up of our abbreviated client list, Lee. And this is by no means, yes, okay. This is by no means a complete list, but it gives you a very good idea of our beginnings and also of our company culture, since this is where we came from. These origins turned us into the star maker behind the scenes, always the local arm of these organizations. And this is why even today, we're happy to be behind the scenes and would never even think to promote ourselves in Condé Nast and the rest. Our culture is that you are supposed to be the stars, and we do all we can to guarantee that with each booking. Here you have a photo of our main travel partners. I'd like to point out Judy Hurst is our U.S. representative, and we have excellent partners and great relationships with all. Our business model is business to business, and so we currently serve both Virtuoso and Altour agency groups. In fact, since 1990, we are one of the original API Virtuoso partners. So here you see our Iberian food map. Some of you might recognize this from the cover of our brochure. This webinar combines our favorite food and wine recommendations through the structure of an in-depth culinary itinerary that showcases our favorite experiences or activities all over the Iberian Peninsula, but often available in multiple locations. So I present you with the Soar family, a family of 4 self-professed gourmands named Connie Soar, who came up to us with the request, Tarragon Jones, who is Connie's partner and the father of the girls, and of course their daughters named Sherry and Bree. Connie Soar asked me to propose a crazy all-foodie itinerary all over the Iberian Peninsula, including, of course, our favorite culinary experiences in each place. I told her they could be here for months to really learn all of the regional specialties and nuances of the Iberian cuisines and cultures, but I happily presented them with our favorite things in the culinary world, which I show you now. So here is a food crazy map of the Soar family trip, starting in Madrid. After we sussed out the issues of drinking around the kids, they were ready to see our star foodie attractions all over. By the way, the drinking issue is this. All Spanish kids have tried beer or wine by the time they're 10 years old. So generally, it's not legal, but it's okay to have your kids take a sip of your wine at a restaurant. But it would be illegal to give him or her a glass of wine or beer at a restaurant. In a private tasting or event, however, this is not a problem with our guide. And I let my daughter Sarah try wine everywhere I go, as long as she limits it to 2 fingers in the glass. So we're on day 1. The Soars arrive in Madrid. And of course, Madrid is in the middle of the Iberian Peninsula. So it's generally the area specialized in all sorts of roast meats, baby milk fed lamb, pig, pork. All of these are very popular since we have a cold winter. I show you coming up, they arrive and they transfer to their hotel where we will arrange food amenities throughout the trip. One of the best things about starting in Madrid is the influx into the nation's capital that we've seen from all the other Spanish regions, thereby allowing a broad introduction to the different Spanish regional specialties through its tapas, as well as through specialty shops in hams, olive oils, turrón, and more. Here you have a few of the most typical dishes from Madrid, and indeed the center of the Iberian Peninsula. Roast lamb and other meats and stews, as I said, are perfect fare for the interior. Madrid is actually the highest capital in Europe, and indeed Spain is the second most mountainous country in Europe. So sheep and goats and other animals are raised easily in this area, and our cold winters make this traditional fare especially popular. Here is a map coming up of the different regions around Spain. And so this makes it abundantly clear why and where the different regional specialties are found around Spain and indeed in Portugal as well. If you divide Spain into 3 horizontal sections with the mountains, rivers, and weather conditioning each area, then you can see the food specialties in the same light. In the center, where Madrid is found, it's very mountainous and cold in the winter, which, as I said, makes for roast meats and stews and legumes as our star dishes. Down south, in the warmest area, here we have specialties that include cold soups like gazpacho and fried fish and some great fruits and vegetables. And up north, which is the greenest and rainiest of the areas, this is also the area of our most sophisticated cuisine. In fact, the Basque Country has the greatest concentration of Michelin stars outside France than any other place. Here in the north, they tend to prefer fish to meat, but they have both in excellent quality with great sauces and vegetables as well. Overall, Spain is more of a salty country, while Portugal has similar native ingredients but different history and culture, making them a bit more of a sweet country, perhaps due to their long history with the British. So here coming up are some of our favorite dishes in Madrid, especially found during the tapas tour. This first afternoon, the Soar family will have a walking tapas tour in the old quarter of Madrid in lieu of what would have been a later traditional dinner. Perhaps they would leave the hotel around 6:30 or 7 p.m. to begin. So these are some of our favorite tapas in Madrid: sausages and calamares and potato omelet. And of course, the tapas tour must end with chocolate con churros for dessert. By the way, did you know that Spain consumes more beer than wine? Even though every single region of Spain and Portugal produces wine, the warm weather and even so many soccer fans make for an even bigger beer drinking culture. In the cities with tapas, in the summer, at the games, and even accompanying some of our stronger dishes like patatas bravas, beer is always on hand in Spain. Finally, the guide will accompany the Soar-Jones family back to the hotel unless the parents want to go out, and she takes Madeira and Brie back to the hotel for them. If Connie had preferred a sit-down dinner this first evening, then this day would have ended very differently. Clients need to know about our eating hours. Madrid is the latest dining city in Europe, with restaurants opening at about 9 p.m. And if you're lucky, maybe they'll even open at 8:30 p.m. In contrast, Barcelona would be a half hour earlier than Madrid, and Lisbon would be an entire hour earlier than Madrid, just to give you an idea. So here you have some photos of some of our favorite local restaurants in Madrid. And we have great relationships with these restaurants. We love to handle your restaurant reservations and indeed feel like we do a better job than the hotel concierges most of the time. FYI, don't worry about the wine prices. Often wine costs even less than Coca-Cola here, and you don't even have to ask if the table wine is good. So the other thing that's great about traveling around Spain and Portugal with a family is that nobody is offended if you don't finish your food or if you share your food or whatever it is. We love kids here. So on day 2, the Sorer family will spend the day in Madrid, but not before checking out our favorite local food markets and then tasting Madrid's star dish, cocido madrileño. At the markets, we can appreciate the fact that Madrid is truly the biggest port in Spain by virtue of daily delivery by air from every single port around the peninsula. And so much presence from every region, it creates this capital as the capital of regional specialties. And food, of course, is a great way to introduce Spain to kids and adults alike. For lunch today, here you have some more of the market specialties, the fish, the ham, the olives. So for lunch today, we go to a traditional local restaurant for the best cocido madrileño. This is the epitome of the slow food movement and Madrid's most historical dish. Made with meat, vegetables, and chickpeas, it is served in very specific different courses. And so it's a whole ritual that you must experience. After lunch, they return to the hotel for a traditional siesta. And then later, the guide will pick them up for a walk back into the Old Quarter, where they have scheduled a private introduction to Spanish ham. What it is, where it is, what are the differences, how to see and taste the differences, and especially how to pay for what you get so nobody can fool you. After the ham education, the whole family could go out to dinner if the kids don't stay at the hotel with a babysitter, or Connie and Tarragon could enjoy a special wine pairing menu for dinner this evening. But honestly, nobody in Madrid would think they would be hungry after cocido madrileño. So on day 3, we have scheduled a full day excursion to Valencia for Connie, Tarragon, Sherry, and Brie. This is fun and educational for the whole family. Round trip train ride on the high-speed train to Valencia is just 1.5 hours each way. And in fact, Valencia is the 3rd largest city of Spain, even though hardly anybody knows it. And it's right here at our fingertips. By the way, about the train, we normally like to travel in preferente class, just for your information. Okay, so on arrival in Valencia, we transfer by taxi into the Old Quarter to visit the emblematic Mercat Central, where the modernist architecture rivals the fresh foods and local specialists, and even tastings possible in this wonderful market with fish and saffron and other spices and olives and wines. After our visit to the market, we go out into the Old Quarter and we visit a typical horchateria for a glass of the local specialty horchata, which is tiger nut milk, coupled with fartons, which are bread-like soft sticks used for dipping in the horchata. This is a great snack for locals, both in the morning or the afternoon, and for all ages. While in the Old Quarter, I might add, don't miss the UNESCO World Heritage Site across from the market called La Lonja, as well as the water court in the Old Quarter, which is rather unique in Valencia for managing water among the different farmers for irrigation. Very interesting history. So we transfer around noon into the nearby Albufera Marsh area, the largest marsh in Europe for growing rice. Here we learn how to make paella where it began. And after our complete paella lunch, we take a boat ride onto the Albufera with one of the locals who tells us about the local rice growing customs and the history of this area where he grew up. A very authentic experience. And by the way, the original paella from Valencia is actually made with meat. Most people don't know that. Normally chicken, rabbit, and sometimes with pork as well. That paella is called paella valenciana, as could be no other. And then the other most popular paella is strictly seafood, paella marinara. And so those are the 2 most popular paellas, even though paella is a very personal dish, and there are hundreds of recipes for paella. The one recipe that does not exist for paella in Spain, though, is a tourist product called paella mixta. This is the paella that mixes shrimp and chicken, and it is exclusively a tourist creation. never eaten by any self-respecting Spaniard anywhere. Just thought you should know that. So after our boat ride, we returned to the train station via a panoramic view of the City of Arts and Sciences, which you're seeing here. This is the most unusual architecture that you could find, and it was designed by native architect Santiago Calatrava. So Calatrava, who is very famous, is actually from Valencia, although he lives in Switzerland. And we do a photo stop there, and then we go back to the Valencia train station for our trip back to Madrid. So now we're on to day 4, and the family leaves Madrid for the south. They take the high-speed train again to Seville, okay? And I did tell you that we like Preferente class, but here you've got a photo of a great table for 4 that a lot of families like to travel with because they can pull out their food and their maps and all of that. So ask us for a table of 4 if you want that, okay? The trip to Seville is just 2.5 hours, so we go early morning, and usually, like I said, Preferente class. And then Connie Suhr and her family arrive just in time to check into the hotel, leave their luggage, and then transfer to one of the oldest, most historic food markets in Seville and indeed all of Spain, Triana Market. They're going here for their private cooking class, which is just really fun, and I know a lot of you listening to me have tried this. Are we at the cooking class? So after lunch, oh, here we are. Okay, great cooking class. And so after lunch, they're met by their driver for a quick excursion just 20 minutes out of Seville to our favorite olive grove for an education in Spain's liquid gold. Spain is the world's largest olive grower, in fact, and it provides Italy with the majority or lots of what they need for their oils as well. A great education and lots of fun. Nice to get out of the city as well. And after the olive grove, it's time to go to the hotel. So on day 5, the whole family will have a full day excursion to explore the roots of Spain's ham out in the countryside. Here you see pictures of where the Iberian pigs are grown. This private day in the country is fun for all, but especially ham lovers. Learn about the life of the pigs, what they eat, what makes them so special, taste all the different types and cuts so that you're the expert when you get home. On day 6, Connie Suhr and her family depart for Bilbao by air. Seville Airport is just 20 minutes from the center. Same with all the other airports in Spain and Portugal, just 20 minutes from the center. A nice small airport with direct flights to Bilbao, too. Now, clearly, most general interest clients would be spending more time in the south once they're in Seville. Once they're here, they would want to see Cordoba and Granada and Ronda and Malaga and even more. But let's get back to this tunnel vision foodie journey for Connie Suhr. On arrival in Bilbao, we transfer to the hotel for check-in, and then we continue to our favorite local spot for our tasting menu and introduction to Basque cuisine, the most sophisticated gastronomy in Spain, as I've said. The whole family will walk back to the hotel after lunch very easily, either to shop or to rest or just enjoy the stroll along the riverside. And this evening, we've arranged a private pinchos making session. That's the Basque Coast that you're seeing in that slide. I love that. This is the pinchos making session for the whole family to learn with a local chef how to make these elaborate tapas called pinchos in the Basque region. And even for large groups, we can make this a competition between them. But basically, families, kids, everybody loves to try their hand and learn how those gorgeous pinchos are made. And then, of course, when the congregations are completed, these are our dinner. We like this option for families or others who object to our late hours. It's true that the best restaurants open at 9 p.m. And so here you have some photos of some of our favorite restaurants in Bilbao. Bilbao is obviously known for the opening of the Guggenheim Museum in 1997, for which Valesa handled all of the VIP services for the opening. And so this is an area that we feel very strong in, of course, all things culinary as well. On day 7, we have scheduled a full day excursion to San Sebastian, where we will have a unique cooking class, including all the gadgets and high-tech secrets used by the Michelin chefs, followed by, of course, lunch, where they eat everything that they prepare, and with great wines for Connie and Tarragon with every course. Sherry and Bree voted for this option over the other possible option, which was a cider house lunch. Look at those beautiful pinchos. Cider house lunch and cider education is just 10 minutes outside of San Sebastian. This family-style lunch at a local cider house is loud and noisy with more locals than tourists, and it's a very authentic experience. Spain actually has 2 different types of cider in 2 different regions where they are served with different styles and different costumes and different traditions. One style of cider is a sort of champagne-style sweet and bubbly one. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about cider or sidra. And then the other type is a natural cider served in Basque Country or in Asturias as well, both of those northern regions, with different traditions and service and costumes, as I mentioned. What you're looking at here is the Basque style of cider. And then after lunch, the family can decide to walk from their restaurant to along the Concha beach of San Sebastian, or even to check out that lovely scenery along the Basque coastline before they return to Bilbao. Of course, in the old quarter of San Sebastian is my second favorite tapas tour in Spain after Madrid, with so many pinchos bars and elaborate creations that everything just looks like a work of art and so appetizing. If I prefer Madrid for its different regional introductions of the different specialties, I prefer the San Sebastian Pinchos tour as the most artistic and must-eat tour on the peninsula. And in this northern border of Spain, along the Bay of Biscay, which is an extension of the Atlantic Ocean, you can obviously find fish and shellfish to be their greatest gastronomic specialties, even though, as I mentioned, there's also green mountains and so plenty of meats nearby, all great quality. And as I said, the greatest concentration of Michelin stars outside of France. Here you have photos of a few of our favorite chefs who we work with in San Sebastian. Front and center is Arzak, our favorite. And then to the left, his daughter Elena, who is now also a chef. And on the right, Martin Berasategui. These are but a few of the chefs who work with Valesa. And here you have photos of some of the star dishes from here. Hake and cod are the premier fishes in both Spain and Portugal. My favorite is that green sauce that you saw on the fish. And then here you have some of the other popular dishes and samples of beautiful creations that they make in the Basque Country. So on day 8, Connie Sur will spend the day in Rioja wine country, as you can see, where education and wine are 2 beautiful overlapping disciplines throughout this picturesque region. For lunch, they could have a picnic in a vineyard, or my favorite activity, a wine pairing lunch overlooking the vineyards. And so here you have photos of some of our favorite wineries, as well as in the previous, you saw a picture of medieval village of La Guardia, just a very picturesque and lovely region, no matter what you decide to do. So Rioja is one of just 2 DOQs in Spain, the only control boards that are more restrictive than the usual DO. Most people know that DO means Denominación de Origen, and of course these are the control boards used all over Europe for most wines and cheeses and hams and lots of different local products whose quality they want to control and who they want to maintain having the reputation like champagne, and people can't just use that name anywhere you go. So Spain is the only country that has one level of control above DO, which is this DOQ, Denominación de Origen Qualité. There are 2 DOQs in Spain. One is Rioja, which has a very big production, and the other is Priorat, which is a remote region more than 2 hours from Barcelona with a tiny, very difficult to farm production that is indeed my favorite wine in Spain, Priorat. Wine lovers must go there. After lunch, the whole family will meet a winemaker for a private class on how to mix monovarietal grapes. Everybody leaves the class with their own mixture after having learned the theory of mixing and their own bottle in order to take home and proud of their own product. Even Sherry and Brie can mix their own different grape juices for their own product. So this is very educational and fun for everybody, a real special access kind of experience. If this family had preferred more of a general interest trip, then I might have suggested a full day from Bilbao into Cantabria to see prehistoric cave art, the Altamira Museum, and one of the prettiest medieval villages of Spain called Santillana del Mar. But alas, this is a foodie itinerary. So on day 9, our family of 4 flies to Barcelona in the morning in time to check into the hotel and then check out local specialty shops or food markets before going to the old port for a great paella lunch overlooking the boats. Here you can see a couple of different dishes and just wonderful presentation. And of course, we're inspecting and trying these out regularly to make sure that they maintain the quality for a year. No tourist product for our clients. After lunch, the driver will take them out to the Penedès wine growing area, just 45 minutes from Barcelona. In this lovely area, they will learn all about Spanish cava, which is the famous sparkling wine from this area, formerly considered champagne until they couldn't use that name. And they finish their cava experience with education and tasting and even making their own bottles with their names on it to go home. And so this is, again, fun for the whole family. Now, if this were a general interest client, you can combine the Penedès easily with a visit to Montserrat Mountain or Monastery. And so there are certainly ways to offer diversity within this day. On the next day, day 10, Connie Sewer and family will spend the day on Costa Brava, just north of Barcelona. First, they go into the woods with our gastrobotanist, who provides plants and truffles for the restaurant Cellar Can Roca, which was voted the best restaurant in the world 2 years in a row. This foraging experience is so educational because it covers everything from gastronomy to history to traditions and explains why their food is what it is. And then after they finish in the woods, then they will enjoy a private wine tasting pairing with flowers, because the flowers are actually used in their regional cuisine here. Or, as you see here, they can go directly to our private kitchen in Girona for a cooking demonstration and private lunch. Obviously, this is a lot of foodie for one day. Some clients prefer to go to a top restaurant on this coastline for a farm-to-table experience, or perhaps just spend the rest of the day visiting medieval villages or relaxing on the beach. In this area, we can also arrange a beekeeping experience, or even hiking along Montserrat Mountain, hot air ballooning, and experiences or picnics in the vineyards nearby. Lots of options in this area. Very interesting. And here you have some of our favorite dishes in Catalonia. On the left, you have a famous pastry called ensaimada that you could find in Barcelona or Mallorca. And you can find these often in Barcelona in bakeries that are called granjas, which is where we often take clients in the middle of a tour for a coffee stop and some local pastry. In the middle there, you have calçots, which is from the onion family, a very famous local product in Barcelona and all of Catalunya. They have a harvest time in January, and you can see below that they serve it with romesco sauce, which is only from Catalunya. Romesco is like a mixture of tomato and almond sauce. It's really wonderful. And on the right, you're seeing the typical preparation of the bread with the tomato rubbed on it, called pan tomaca in this area. And so these are just a few samples of some of our favorite or most popular things there. On day 11, they have a free day in Barcelona. Connie, Tarragon, Sherry, and Brie can decide if they want to shop or possibly go fishing or take some other kind of boat excursion or check out any one of the museums or Gaudí sites along the way. And today on day 12, the whole family flies to Lisbon, where they begin at lunchtime with the Petiscos tour, otherwise known as Portuguese tapas. And they're having the Petiscos while they're walking around the Old Quarter, tasting the local specialties, and even asking all of their questions, learning about our local fare. It's kind of an all-in-one when you're tasting and you're walking through the Old Quarter. Next, they go to our favorite traditional bakery to learn how to make the famous custard tarts called pastéis de Belém. Here you can participate or just watch these wonderful tarts being made. And then, of course, you get to taste them hot out of the oven. And then you can take them away along with other traditional Portuguese sweets made in this lovely shop. And this is a whole education in Portuguese sweets. Then they go to the hotel for a bit of a rest, after which Connie and Tarragon will have a private introduction to port wine with tasting. And we can arrange these tastings in the hotel or in various locations. The Portuguese pride themselves on their fresh fish, even though there are many typical dishes around the country made with chickpeas, sausages, and more. There are also fantastic local cheeses and excellent desserts, and so these are my favorite things in Portugal. On day 13, the family travels south of Lisbon down the Arrábida coast. This is Portugal's version of the Amalfi coast, but without crowds or high cost. So first we visit the fishing village of Setúbal just to see our favorite food market in Portugal. Really wonderful market. And then nearby, we go to our favorite winery hotel called Casa Palmela for an introduction to our favorite Portuguese wine regions through our paired menu, also pairing a great chef with their sommelier who joins us for the entire lunch. The Portuguese wine scene is actually very complicated even for wine professionals, with more than 300 varieties of grapes here versus less than half that in Spain. You can understand how we felt the need to narrow down the options and introduce it in this nice way with their cuisine. This is one of our favorite experiences. So on day 14, their last full day, the family was given a choice between going to the Sintra coast, which you're seeing here in the pictures, in order to visit our favorite winery by the sea, and then, of course, end the day with something like a sunset cruise. But they could have also selected the option I offered into the Alentejo region, probably more appealing to our general interest clients with Cork Farms and the UNESCO World Heritage Town of Évora and excellent food and wines here in this more country kind of region. Or they could have opted to spend a few extra days in the Douro Valley. So just a quick word about wine tourism in Spain and Portugal. We know that most clients know how wine is made, but nevertheless, most wineries here will make you do the visit before you taste. And most places do not offer tasting rooms like we find in Napa Valley. So we try our best in Vallessa to keep your visit down to 1 hour or 1 hour and 15 at the most. So day 15, that's it. Our foodie adventure around Spain and Portugal for the family is over. Connie Sewer, Tarragon Jones, Sherry, and Bree, they'll leave this morning from Lisbon Airport and take their direct flight back to the U.S. And at this point, they've learned enough to open a few different restaurants, and hopefully they'll be back to see the rest of culture in Iberian Peninsula. They were certainly tunnel vision foodies. So this is the end of our culinary introduction by Vallessa, including our recommendations along the entire route. I hope you enjoyed learning about our greatest foodie experiences and that we'll have the pleasure to plan your in-depth culinary program, or perhaps more likely, just a few of these optional highlights within a general program, which is how most clients would use this overview. Vallessa is part of the culinary community for Virtuoso this year, but frankly, we've been concentrating on regional cuisines and specialties since the 1970s. So that's all the information that I have for you today. Are there any questions? Oh, Marcy, and one more thing. And one more thing. Anyone who wants to be on our mailing list, please make sure that you send us an email requesting that.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you so much. And terrific terrific webinar, and we have a few people who were on your last FAM, and one actually says she was absolutely stunned by the choices in the culinary programs and the private access that Valesa affords. She said she loves the creative juices at Valesa, so that's really sweet. It's nice to hear that.
So nice.
Yes. One question we had that came in twice was actually about whether you could accommodate vegetarians on a trip like this.
Okay, so that's a very curious question, and the short answer is yes. Actually, Spain is not a bad country for vegetarians. We have great fruits and vegetables, and we eat lots of legumes, and so it's actually an easy diet for us to seek. My older daughter is actually vegan, and so I've discovered a lot of vegan specialties around Spain when traveling with my kids. And we have even arranged trips that have been gluten-free, if you can believe it. So we're continuously challenging ourselves to make people's diets fun here in Spain and Portugal.
Well, while we're talking about vegetables, there was a question, what was the name of the green vegetable with the romesco sauce that you had the picture of?
Good question. Okay, so the name is in Catalan, and I should say that almost every name in Spain has a Castilian name as well as the regional language name. We have 5 official languages. So the name of that vegetable is calçots, the Catalan name. I don't think it has another name. I wouldn't know how to say it in Castilian, but essentially it's from the onion family. It's like a big a really long shallot. And you can have them both battered and fried as well as grilled on the fire. On the fire is the best with the romesco sauce. Can't miss that. A really perfect reason to come in the winter.
Yeah. So there was a comment that it sounds a little like a leek.
Well, it's from that same onion family, and it kind of looks like a leek, but it feels more tender, like an onion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you another business question for you. Does Valesa help with in-country flights as well?
Yes, actually, we make all of the arrangements from when they arrive until when they depart, and so we handle the transport, whether it be by car, by train, by air, by boat, by donkey, by animal, by hot air balloon, any kind of transport you need.
Excellent. That's good to know. Okay. And does Valesa operate year-round?
Oh my gosh, of course. There is a reason in every month of the year to visit Spain and Portugal. There used to be a high season and a low season when we might have considered to perhaps slow down in the winter. But these days, I think everybody can agree with me, there is no downtime, and there are good things to do here all year round, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And can you organize self-drive type holidays with local guides?
We have done. I wouldn't say that it's our greatest specialty, but we've done that among all sorts of different kinds of special interest or special setup kind of travel. Some people like to self-drive, especially when it's a way to save money also. And so we understand that. Obviously, it doesn't have the same sort of fully included kind of package feeling that it's all going to go smoothly, but it's a different kind of adventure. So yes, certainly we'll arrange that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And for the trade working with you, are payments made in U.S. dollars? And then how do you quote? Are you quoting net rates?
Okay, that's a good question. We can quote in a lot of different ways if the client asks us, but our natural way, if the client says nothing, is to send pricing net in euros. and then the advisors add on what they need to add on. And it's of course the most common operation is that then their client pays us by credit card, and then we pay them the commission at the end of the trip. But if someone wants a gross price or a price in dollars, we can offer that as well, but it's not as much in your interest as if we give the price in euros. Mm-hmm. We have to protect ourselves with the exchange rate.
Sure. Do you have a guaranteed turnaround on an itinerary, a proposal?
Well, the next best thing to a guarantee is usually a promise date. Okay, and so every time we start with a client, we promise when the next step is taking place. Normally, once somebody answers our qualifying questions, we can turn around in one business day a proposed trip outline in order to discuss all of the ideas and get on the same page before we proceed to the final proposal, checking all of the availabilities and such, and being more exacting. That final proposal normally takes a couple of days.
Okay, thank you. All right, my next question is about the quality of the hotels that you use. Do you use small boutique hotels?
Oh, I love this question. As a graduate from the Cornell Hotel School, hotels are near and dear to my heart. And so I am probably the pickiest person on the Iberian Peninsula when it comes to inspecting and qualifying hotels. We do indeed work with boutique properties as well as the 5-star properties, not so much 3-star, but we're also very aware that the star system in itself can be very confusing to advisors, and different countries have different classifications. And so within Vallessa, we have our own classification system for the properties that we work with. We inspect them frequently. We work with, as I said, both 5-star and 4-star, and we are giving you that value added because we actually spend money to visit them. We have good relationships. We know the rooms, and we get the best treatment after so many years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Thank you. So,
however, I just want to say one more thing. However, you are not required to book your hotels with us. It's in your interest, that you're not required.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Thank you for mentioning that. So everything is custom then, correct?
Correct. Only tailored. And of course, we hope to be the most creative around.
Mm-hmm. And what is your group? What even, I know you're tailoring it. Do you have a maximum group size that you will work with?
I wouldn't say that we have a maximum group size, but I would tell you that the average size group might be somewhere between 20 and 30, with some as small as 15, and maybe my largest group that comes every year is closer to 80 people. But for the most part, they're around 20 to 30 people, the groups.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you have a minimum number of days required for a booking?
No.
Okay.
I will say that when we talk about minimums, I will say that we are no longer handling hotel only or transfer only bookings. But that's maybe the only minimum I could mention.
Mm-hmm. All right. What tips would Vallessa give us to approach our individual university groups to collaborate with Vallessa?
That's a very good question, because they are going through a lot of change as well. And essentially what I find is that the university alumni, they are basically general interest groups, and that the entire programming and design of the tour depends on the professor who wants to accompany the group. If the professor is not excited and doesn't have input into the itinerary of the group, then the whole thing kind of falls apart. Professor has to be excited and promoting it as well. And so each design starts with the professor, the Pied Piper.
Right. So that's good advice and good place to start. And I assume you collaborate and all of that with the advisor and the client thing. So.
Oh yes, and in the alumni market, it's even more often a wholesaler because they're also doing brochures and marketing, administration. Every end client has different capacities to handle their own pieces of work, and so it depends on how well they're set up to do some of their own work. And so it really depends on the institution being qualified well, knowing who your Pied Piper is, and starting the wish list with the Pied Piper, and then making the design around that. But the one thing that you should be prepared for is that there are lots of cooks in this kitchen.
Oh, that's good advice. So I know we were talking culinary today, but can you also do other special interests? The specific request was about a birding tour, but I'm sure there's, we could fill in that with any other number of topics.
Yeah, well, it's true that our origins began in art with art museums, and we also work with a lot of gardens and horticultural societies. But we have actually become like a special interest guru. In fact, my latest specialty that I have created and designed and inspected and worked really hard on has been astronomy. And so now we are bringing MIT and hopefully Smithsonian to the Canary Islands for a canary an astronomy adventure. Astronomy is just one example of how we can create a special interest for your client. Unfortunately, these days I don't have a birder on our staff, but that doesn't mean I couldn't find one.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose archaeology, and you mentioned art, but archaeology would be an extension of that, I suppose, would be something you could do?
Both archaeology and architecture have been actually very big specialties for us. When they found the earliest man in Europe at Atapuerca near Burgos, we were the ones who introduced it to the Leakey Foundation. And so we've been in on the ground floor for a lot of different archaeological exploration as well as architectural, working with Princeton and other groups in order to have architectural both symposiums as well as trips.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but we were talking about what your best sense of when you're going to be able to start sending clients out again to travel. What sense are you getting of when you'll be able to put people out on adventures again?
We are seeing people keeping bookings as early as July. We haven't been seeing it for earlier than that. You're right, I need a crystal ball because I'm not really sure how the Americans are going to go through this and what kind of travel restrictions there will be afterward. But on Spain and Portugal side of things, I believe that as early as this summer, we already have some confirmed and reconfirmed bookings that are definitely coming. But in my mind, the bulk of it will start coming in the fall.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you speak for a moment about private access? I know that is one of the things that you are just excellent at arranging, and for small numbers of guests. What sort of real private? I mean, I guess that's what we've been talking about all along. But are there a few that really stand out that you could speak to?
Well, I mean, everything that we do is private. We have dabbled a little bit in group experiences, and then we pulled back from that. We feel that our reputation depends on our maintaining all experiences privately. And so clearly there are top of the line experiences that we reserve for our package clients. And then there are all sorts of different private experiences that are like in the upper echelon, but not necessarily the top. We have a cooking class in a private home of a countess that she allows nobody else to go to. We have a dinner that some lucky advisors just joined me in recently, prepared privately by a 2-star Michelin chef. And we have access into the restoration studio at the Prado Museum if you come from an institution, but that's not necessarily available to individuals. Some of these private access activities, if you will, are really reserved more for groups than for individuals. And so I'd probably start at 4 people if I were trying to do something like that. But we have a lot of different private access, depending on what your special interest, not just food and wine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we were talking mostly about Spain and Portugal today, but I wanted to finish with this question because we had people asking about Morocco and France as well. So would you be able to arrange similar type experience in those countries?
I would say that the French part along the Spanish border probably lends itself better to a food and wine focus than the Moroccan area. But yes, we could arrange food and wine in both areas, certainly. Was that your question?
Yes,
okay.
It was.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Well, I'll stop there, Marcy. I'm going to turn it back to you for closing comments. This has been fantastic.
Oh gosh, I hope that I answered everybody's questions and that this was interesting for you. And I guess the final message is that creating never stops. Even as I've created this webinar and I've shown it to you today, I have another 6 experiences in the pipeline that I can't wait to finish creating. And so don't ever stop asking us for the specialties you're interested in, because it's likely there could be something new on the horizon. It's a long process for us because we want to make sure that it's going to be good for your client. It's not good enough on paper or on the internet. We have to go and actually check it out. It's a tough job, but somebody has to do it, and we're doing that for you. And so I hope that this information was helpful, and I certainly look forward to hearing from you afterward, and of course, as you start planning for your clients.
Thank you, Marcy. This has been fantastic. And everyone, when you leave the webinar, a survey will pop up. We would really appreciate it if you would take a moment to fill that out for us so that we can be in touch. And please do be on the lookout for another Valesso webinar coming most likely in the fall. And this replay, we will make sure that we get that out to you as well. So with that, we will wish you all a great day and conclude the webinar. Goodbye now. Thank you, Marcy.
You. Bye.
Bye.